All right, guys, thanks for clicking on the video. This is a talk from my event that I had in January 2025 in Toronto. We had a total of 10 speakers, lots of social, lots of side conversations going on, but these are the actual talks from the event. I'm only able to release somewhere between half and 2/3 of them because some of the topics that we covered would not be suitable for YouTube, and or the speaker wanted to remain anonymous due to the topic that they're discussing. So the stuff that you see me put out here to my email list or the membership on the Unplugged Alpha channel is for you guys. It's totally free, so enjoy it. The next event will be in 2025. Make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca and get notified for when the next event is, because trust me, you won't want to miss it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Peace out.
All right. Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to the 1% Forum. It's awesome to see everybody here. I met some of you last night. Hope to meet most of you today. My name is Paul Colicchio. I'm a good friend of Rich's, and we are putting on this 1% Forum for you guys today. And tomorrow, a few housekeeping things before we get going. The bathrooms. So if you exit this room to your left, you will find the bathrooms. Also to the left is the business center if you need a quiet area to make a phone call or meditate or whatever it is you might want to do. Coffee, beverage station will be refreshed throughout the day outside the lobby here. Lunch is also going to be served outside there as well. Our restaurant inside the hotel is called Abrielle, those of you that may not have seen it last night, and it is located on the main floor. We have the hero dinner this evening, so just please check with me to make sure that you are on my list. And if you're not and you are interested, we still have a few spots available. And then for 44 tonight, we'll meet around 10 p.m. in the lobby for those of you that are interested in coming to the nightclub. So just a quick overview and rundown of how today and tomorrow are going to work. We have some fantastic speakers. Our speakers put a lot of time and effort into what they want to talk to you about. I think they're going to be very engaging, exciting. I think everybody's going to get a lot out of this today. So we'll have 3 presenters before lunch. And then we'll have a break, we'll have a few more presenters, and then we'll cut you loose for the day, and then we kick off tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. as well. So, most of you know the gentleman here to my left, Mr. Richard Cooper. This is why we're all here, for him and his wonderful guests. Little story about Rich and I. Rich and I met about 5-6 years ago, Rich. We both have a love for fast cars and things like that, and so we started meeting on these car rallies, and it became pretty quick that we became fast friends, and we always used to drive right in the front of the group, driving way too fast and a little bit too stupid, and we just kind of became friends. And so about just over a year ago, I said to Rich, Rich, you should really try to get all your circle together, all your 1% guys in a room, and try to do some networking. He's like, no. I'm like, no, I think you should. I think it'd be really, really beneficial. He's like, Paulie, no. Well, guess who won that one? Probably the only time that I've ever been able to convince Rich of something. Rich seems like he's this straight and narrow guy, and I got a couple of stories I could tell. And if you have time, ask Rich about churros. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you the story real quick about churros. We were on a car rally in Mont-Tremblant, and I had one of those weed oil pens. And I don't think Rich had ever tried one before. And I'm like, Rich, you should try this. He's like, what is it, Paulie? I'm like, just try it. You're going to like it. So he tries it, and throughout the night, you can see Rich is relaxing a little more. He's having some fun, and so it's the end of the night. The dessert station comes out, and I hadn't seen Rich for probably 20 minutes. And I walk over to him, I go, Coop, have you, did you have any churros? He looks at me, and he goes, Paulie, I had 4 churros 2 times. So that was his nickname on our last rally, was Team Churro, so it was pretty funny. But yeah, ask me, and I got a whole bunch of stories about Rich. But I'm going to now introduce our first kind of 2 speakers. Well, Rich, I just introduced. Next, we have Mr. Mike Piazza. Many of you may know Mike for his Hall of Fame career playing 16 seasons in Major League Baseball. Mike amassed over $100 million in earnings while playing, but few know that his family business grossed over $1 billion in sales. Piazza family is truly a successful entrepreneurial story. Mike owned a professional soccer team in Italy and currently manages the Italian national baseball team, which was the most watched international baseball team in history for 2023. Mike's currently overseeing a professional sports complex in Rome. Mike's married, father of 3, currently living in Italy. He brings a unique perspective to life, love, and overcoming diversity and adversity. Mike has lived a life most men would dream about. Being a star in New York and LA, he prides himself on his good character and loyalty. Gentlemen, Mike Piazza, Rich Cooper.
Thank you, man. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, all right.
Good morning.
All right.
It's cold up here.
Yeah, welcome to Canada. Mike's
It's good to be here.
president of Miami and Italy and a man of the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick little intro on how I met Mike, because I think it's a fascinating story, and then we'll do a little fireside chat back and forth and some stuff that we're going to cover here. But I got hit on by his assistant, Gianmarco. I don't know where he is right now.
Very.
Well, there he is. Awesome dude. And he's like, hey, you know, me and Mike are a fan of your stuff, wanted to have a chat. He'll be in the city accepting an award. And we met up for lunch in Yorkville, just up the road, back in the summertime. I had already booked this spot and, you know, put down the deposits. And I'm like, hey, Mike, you know, at the end of the thing, basically, I'm like, you know, I'm doing this event in January. If you're in town, I'd love to have you there, sort of thing. I don't have the means to pay like a big speaker's fee. He's like, don't even, I'm in. Let's do it. Yeah. So major gratitude for your generosity and time and interest in doing this. I know that you really love, you know, the sorts of conversations that I have. I think Mike's got some fantastic stories. So got a few things that we're going to dive into here in the next hour. And, you know, he'll be here all weekend, part of the Heroes Dinner tonight. And we'll also obviously be on the Q&A. You've got some, I mean, where do you want to start with the stories, man? You want to start with women and heartbreak and dating? You're married to a Playboy playmate
I think
for 20
maybe
years. Where do you want to go, brother?
Let me, can I get a Bloody Mary? Just kidding. No, I think kind of the first thing was when I started listening to you. It was funny, and don't take this the wrong way, but I was like, immediately thought of my father. And I'm sure you get that a lot because the lessons and the things that you were expounding on and expressing to guys through the potholes of life, it was like, I was like, oh my God, and my father passed away a couple of years ago. He was an incredible man. But I mean, the lessons that he taught me, it was almost like deja vu when I was listening to you. And I really thought, man, you know, I'd love to talk about these things. And one of the themes that I wanted to impress upon the guys here was mentorship and the importance of people in your life that are able to sort of, you know, I always say when we're young, we're kind of like raw clay, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to have guys that are experienced and go through the ups and downs. And the ability to listen and the ability to comprehend it and process it and put it into practice. Because there's a difference between sort of book smart intelligence and then wisdom. Wisdom's the ability to put what you learn into life's experiences. And that was the biggest thing, especially because my dad told me. He always said, you know, when I was young, and we're all young and idealistic, you know, you watch Walt Disney movies, you think life is, like you said, when you talk about girls, sugar and spice and everything nice. And having daughters, of course, that's the way I feel about them. But as your young guy, you have this idealistic sort of romantic feeling about life. And then the heartbreak comes in. And I remember my first heartbreak in high school. I was in love with this girl who was, I think she was like the homecoming queen and whatnot.
How old were you?
I was 16,
Yeah.
you know. And my buddy, Joe, who was dating her, it was really funny. He was like, bro, like, take it easy. You know, I was leading with my heart, and we went out. We had this place we go out and have beers in high school. Probably everyone has that area. And I really wanted to be with her. And she started making out with this other guy right in front of me, you know. And the funny thing was that then it was, of course, a little bit of a punch in the gut. But my buddy Joe, and this is the first, he said, Mike, he goes, bro, he says, you know what, 20 years, we're going to be in this small town doing the same thing. He goes, you got star potential. He goes, you're going to do something. Don't worry about her. Don't worry about that. You know, basically just learn that lesson hard and sort of, it toughens you. It's like emotional armor in a way. Mm. And you start to realize that life is hard. Life is difficult. And the lessons that you learn from adversity are the ones that we are not really defined by our successes, but we can be defined by our ability to overcome adversity.
Mm. What sort of failures did you have in life as you were sort of up and coming and getting your baseball career? And because I mean, I always find the stories of wins are cool, but I think, you know, getting back up after you've been knocked down sometimes several times, like I always say, a winner is just a loser that got back up again, right?
No, I mean, absolutely.
You must have some war stories there.
Yeah, I mean, and then, you know, for me, I was a pretty good player coming out of Pennsylvania. I went to the University of Miami, and basically my career just stalled. I wasn't getting along with the coaches. Fighting, I had a little bit more inflated sense of what I was, and I knew at that point that I had to reinvent myself. You know, we talk about this all the time. I think I was a slow-footed first baseman coming out of high school and went to the University of Miami, had 9 at-bats, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to get somewhere, go somewhere where I can play. I met a great coach in North Miami who was one of the all-time winningest junior college coaches. I went there my second year, had a good year, and I'm thinking, you know, well, what's up now? And the Dodgers drafted me. But when I signed,
this time?
I was 18, 19.
18,
and basically they said, look, we had just signed these 3 really good first basemen. You got to think about doing something else. Would you ever consider catching? And I'm like, catching? Like, that's like the hardest freaking job on the field. I mean, I don't know. And they said, well, you got to either that or go home. Mm-hmm. So it's what I did. I got the catcher's gear on and I went down to the bullpen.
You were a great catcher though, but were you a natural or did you have to?
No, I
had coaching and the guidance to get there.
I had my first catching coach was this guy Johnny Roseborough, who had caught Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and all the great Dodger teams of the '60s, if you guys know baseball. And he was incredible. I mean, he would have these expressions, and he was not a military drill guy. He would just sit there and smoke a cigarette and say, "Hey, man, 60,000 people in the stands. Don't let them see you throw it into center field." Basically, don't screw up, you know. Yeah. And then this other catching coach was more of a military guy with the drills and with the things, but blocking balls and throwing. But you know, I had to put my social life on hold, and I had to really concentrate on my craft. And I became a little bit socially inept. I mean, again, even though I had that little heartbreak in high school, I was a little bit sheltered. You know, I wasn't really out in the world as far as learning about women and relationships and things like that, about the real life experience of what that entails. But ultimately, it came down to, if you really want to achieve something, you have to sacrifice that. I've rarely seen guys that go out and party all night are successful.
Right.
There's anomaly guys, of course, you know, maybe rock stars, because that's what they do. But if you're trying to perfect your craft, you have to sacrifice something. You have to put that on hold.
What were the sacrifices?
You know, just taking care of yourself, going to the gym, learning nutrition, all these things. And, you know, I'm a little bit older, so all these new age things that are coming in from all this new research, I mean, I would just go to the gym. I laugh now, guys are doing all these core stuff and ball work. And I said, we used to just bench. You remember? Right. How much you bench? How much you bench? That was like the thing we did in the gym. So ultimately, we were dinosaurs, but as far as sacrifice, and I remember going back to the point about getting a heartbreak, my dad used to say, "Hey man," he goes, "you think you miss the girl that you want now," he goes, "but when you get to the big leagues and you're making millions of dollars," he goes, "that's where the girls are." Mm-hmm. You know, that's where the real action is. And
did you believe him at that time, or was it still a question in your mind?
I did believe him. Yeah, I was starting to believe him because, you know, I was starting to see guys when I had signed, like for example, a good prospect, when they went to the minor league town, he had his wife with the U-Haul in tow and the kid in the back of the car. And I started saying to myself, you know, I don't want to be entangled like that. I didn't want that responsibility of having to put food on the table. I wanted to be free and have fun and enjoy the struggle. And you can't enjoy the struggle when you have responsibility. Yeah. You can't. So like for me, I mean, I went to Mexico. I was making $1,100 a month in Mexicali, and we'd go down and, you know, buy a case of Tecate and Pacific and just drink and talk about the game. Mm-hmm. And the guy who was always married, like, "Oh, I got to go home. I got to go home." You know, and it's like you have to be free. When I was with the Dodgers, I saw this kid who was the #1 pick, and I'll never forget it. He was like a second coming of Kirk Gibson. He can run, he can throw, he can hit. His high school or his girlfriend broke up with him, and he literally went home in heartbreak. And I'm like, dude, let her go, man. You get to the big leagues, you're gonna have 20 girls like that. You're gonna have they're going to be so much better, so much hotter, so much more fun. But he was just weak, you know, like he needed that entanglement. He needed that emotional sort of attachment. He thought this girl was everything and that she was playing with his head. And I said, when someone's playing with your head, they don't care about you. You know, it's like, if a girl really cares about you, they have to go, man, go make the money, go do what you need to do, go out there. Not pulling you back and making you feel insecure. You're not going to do better than me. You know, I'm the best you're ever going to get. I'm sure all of you guys heard that line before, and I'm just like, really? You're the best I'm going to get? I mean, come on. So I was just able to really start to build this emotional armor, and then realize, for me, my personal advice is, if you're out there trying to make your, like you said, make your dent in the world, I just don't believe you should get married until you're at least 35. That's just.
You obviously noticed a pivot and a shift in your life when you developed some reputation, experience, winning games, influence, money, the contracts that come with it. What changed in your personal life and in your love life when that shift happened in your life?
Well, it was funny. I was in AAA, and it's the same thing. I mean, old habits die hard, right? Romantic idealism dies hard. And when I was getting to AAA, the girls were getting hotter, right? They were getting, as you get up in level, the talent starts to increase. And I really fell for this girl she was at Arizona State. She was a very, very pretty girl. But I learned as I was dating her, she was spinning plates on me. She was dating a hockey guy, and I was in love with her, and she was dating this hockey guy. And actually one night when we were together, she crept out to go see this guy when we were together. And again, I think it was a blessing. I think it's a good slap in the face, like a bucket of cold water to wake you up. And I started thinking, man, what am I doing? Like, you get caught because and again, I grew up in a very conservative household as well, and I struggled with that a little bit because my mom was very traditional Catholic. We went to church every Sunday. And I think that's important. I really do. I think there is a spiritual component to life, whatever church, temple, whatever you think that is. And I do believe that meditation, prayer, whatever that is important, because I think we have to learn how to be alone, right? Men are their best when you kind of go into monk mode, I call it, You have to know yourself.
What is monk mode by your definition?
I think the ability to be alone. And I mean really alone, not
comfortable with it.
Yeah, and be comfortable with it, not feel like we have to lily pad,
What about the pressure from like culture, society, family? Like, where's the girl? When are you going to get married? Why aren't you taking something seriously?
I think that comes in, you have to define yourself. Don't let society define you. And I had a lot of people close to me that giving me those messages. You have to kind of have a filter and say, well, what am I about? What do I want? Not what society tells me, not what, even people close to me, that I thought, oh, you have to do this. No, I don't have to do anything. Because again, you can get off the rails too. Like if you get to the big leagues and you have a lot of money. I mean, the first party I went to in LA, they were cutting cocaine on the table, And we know that the athletes that went in that direction and stumbled. So there's nothing wrong with going to those parties and having fun, but you also have to learn how to contain yourself and focus and really be in it for the long haul, I guess is the word. Because I've seen guys just flame out. They get there, they get the money, they get in the party, they get in the drugs, and next thing you know, you never heard of them again. They completely disappear. And these are guys that had potential to have staying power.
Yeah. Adversity is one of the topics that you love talking about, and I think every guy in this room at some point gets to a wall that they hit, and they're like, and whether it's deciding to take a permanent step to a temporary problem in their life, aka suicide, or packing it in and not doing it, pivoting. You must have had times in your career where you're just like, really, again, like, how did you get past that?
I mean, the good story is when I signed with the New York Mets for $91 million, and I tell people this all the time, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And you think I would be toast of the town, getting champagne.
Terrified from the aspect of like
The pressure.
like imposter syndrome. Like,
Yeah,
do I deserve this?
I was terrified with not achieving or not sort of living up to the expectations.
What was your prior contract before the 91 mil?
I signed a $15 million contract
That's a big jump.
with the Dodgers, yeah. And so they call it AAV in baseball, which is your average yearly salary, whatever that's years divided obviously by the amount of money. But but I think that is a good thing. You know, I think you have to embrace your vulnerability in a way and focus it and allow it for you to work harder and become more focused. There's nothing wrong with that. I truly believe that if you didn't feel that way, then there's something wrong with you. I mean, the guys that get the money go, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I'm gonna, just have fun, and all the temptations and things that we had talked about are there. But for me, I always wanted to return value. I had that internally, and I think I got that from my dad. Mm-hmm. And the things that you teach the guys, or at least you tell the guys, are what it's really about. Be valuable. I love when people complain about things, or for example, when in the carpet, we fired this guy one time, and I said to him, I go, when we were talking, he's like, I go, well, you're late every day, you're drunk, you're a bad technician, and you break the equipment. He goes, so where's the problem? So it's like, I think don't live in denial, don't live in this alternative universe. Be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, how do I get better? Mm-hmm. What do I need to do to be my best self? What is in my control, right? What are the things that I can control? I can control my health, or my shape. I can control my effort. I can control my emotional strength. And then the things that are out of your control, why would you worry about them? I mean, there's those things you just can't control. And I think we as men sometimes get into that. And women definitely are hyper controlling.
Yeah.
It goes back, if you read the Bible, and it's funny, I don't know if you guys because it's a great study. In the first, with Adam and Eve, when they sinned or they ate the fruit, God said to Eve, you will try to rule over a man, and you never will. Mm-hmm. It's written in the first book in the Bible. You will have pain in childbirth, and you will try to rule over a man, but you never will. Mm-hmm. So it's in their DNA, women's DNA. They want to control you. It's like the joke about the guy who got married, and she's like, you have to change, you have to change, you have to change. And then she says, and he says, well, I changed. And she left him.
Yeah.
And he goes, why did you leave me? She goes, you're not the guy I married.
Yeah. Yeah, she'll spend years trying to change you and then want to leave the guy that she married. It's interesting. That's to the point of the concept of frame that I often talk about, which is, when it comes to a relationship, it's always better if she's in your frame rather than you being in her frame, and that you're leading. You told me an interesting story post-retirement where you were just like, I wanted to kick up and relax. Can you talk about managing your personal marriage and your relationship? Mm-hmm. Because you hit the pinnacle. It's not like you're on the decline, but I mean, men generally reach their peak in their mid 30s, maybe early 40s, and at some point, we start to realize that our bodies are starting to get older, and we can't compete in certain realms that we did before, and women start to test us, right? Because they want to know that they're with the best that they can get, sort of thing. Yeah, and it's true, and especially for an athlete, because ultimately, it's a young man's game, right? Like the younger the better. Teams are always looking for younger. The game is getting younger. You see great athletes. I did this show with Dwight Howard, who I always thought was a great player, and at his career, he can't get signed in the NBA, and the guy was a force. But the story you talk about was like the year I retired, and I went through a little bit of that sort of withdrawal, depression, was gaining some weight, and I was sleeping on the couch one day, and my wife comes in, she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm taking a nap. She's like, are you sick? And I said, no. I go, I'm taking a nap. She goes, well, I think that's weird. And when I counted, I said, well, you see this house? You see these lights? You see this bill? I go, you want to freaking pay for it? She goes, enjoy your nap. Yeah. But the funny thing, how you transferred it, which was true, because then I started thinking, I have to reinvent myself. I have to either
started thinking about coaching, started thinking about me. I don't know, you know, and I do, like I said, went into monk mode, maybe to the negative, because I was eating and gaining weight and I was depressed. And I said, you know, I got to get my ass back in the gym. You know, I got to start training. I got to start taking care of myself, because, you know, there's three components. You know, there's the physical, obviously, the intellectual, the mental, and the spiritual. You know, and to me, getting back to the faith part, I mean, when children are young, going back to the marriage, I think faith is important in a marriage. I think it's not a guarantee that will, you know, but it's just something to bring you together as a family. I think it builds, and like you said, you have the Catholic girl, 12 years, who ends up leaving her husband regardless. I mean, does that happen? Of course it does. But yeah. I do believe that having some sort of discipline, faith discipline in your house with your family for the married guys is good.
Yeah, so you found that with, I mean, after your baseball career, you know, after you go into retirement, then you built out this life that's multi-continental. You're in Italy in the summertime,
yeah.
and, you know, Florida in the wintertime, and you're managing sports leagues. You've got the family car business. You know, you're really interested in helping men develop and make more of themselves. That forces you to travel.
Sure.
And I've always said that absence makes the heart grow fonder with women. I think you have to be apart from them. Like, have you found that to be an important dynamic in managing the long-term relationship with her?
Yeah.
Having strong desire for you, you know, having a little bit of time apart. Like, how does that work?
Without a doubt. And the line you always say too, that women want to be with men that other women want to be with.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. I'm sorry. And these are things that are in their nature, right? These aren't things that we can sort of engineer in a way. This is just inherent, you know. Women are attracted to guys, powerful guys, money and power and all these things. And so, yes, I mean, part of the thing with my marriage is, and I knew, and in her defense, look, over the course, I've been going on 20 years in a relationship, or LT, or whatever you want to call it, marriage, like, you're going to have to stand by your partner when they go through some shit, right? Mm-hmm. Some tough times. That's just, you're never going to go through a 20-year sort of blissful existence. You know, you're going to have ups and downs, and you find out a lot about people when you're going through that, you know. And the expression you say, you know, that the test of a woman's loyalty is when her man is unsuccessful.
Yeah.
And I always say this, like, if you're unsuccessful and your woman she's doing you a favor. Mm-hmm. She is.
I agree.
You know, she's doing you a favor by saying, hey, you're a loser, you're never going to make it, whatever. And then you have to try to channel that and use it for fuel.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with men. I mean, I think we struggle because we ultimately are, we live by man-made laws, but we have animal instincts. You know what I mean? You look at throughout history, there's been kings and dukes and like, they've had multiple wives, they had concubines, they had harems and all these things. So that feeling of being attracted to other women or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just natural. I think, you know, when we struggle, at least for me, was going through the religious guilt of it, you know, and I think that's something you have to juggle as a man. But again, to be pragmatic in life is, to me, the real, that's what we're trying to achieve, pragmatism, just understanding that. But yes, travel, reinventing yourself, having a good bunch of buds, like for me. I have great
good
golf
men that are
buds.
good at being men.
I'm a golfer, I'm a cigar guy. I love my boys.
Yeah.
Like, we have the best games, we have fun, we smoke cigars, we wood cards, whatever that may be. And that's what I think was great what you did, because you surround yourself with like-minded people, motivated guys, good guys, guys that are character guys that you can learn from. You know, because and when you build yourself up, you will attract a higher quality woman. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like when you see these things of people doing getting into nefarious things, water seeks out water, you know? And it's going back to, on the woman's side, I'll say this is really interesting. When I first got to the big leagues, the Dodgers it hired this mental coach, which now everyone has a mental coach. This is kind of very ambitious and forward thinking.
What does a mental coach do?
I think a mental coach is a guy who or coach for that matter comes in that is trying to teach you to focus to achieve your best results in sports. Mm-hmm. Like the ability to block out being nervous, all the things we had talked about, focus on execution under pressure. You know, because I play golf, right? And I played in a pro-am in front of people. It's a completely different experience playing with your bros out on the course. and then having to make a 2-foot putt in front of 500 people. You know what I mean? Like, your butt tightens up. It's a completely different experience. And as an athlete, at least in baseball, I never really had that problem. When I got between the lines, and this is another thing in business, you kind of have to invent a persona for yourself. Like for me, when I got between the lines, I was Charlie Manson, okay? I was a serial killer. One of the coaches, I don't want to, if you block it out with the profanity, he says, you got to be a motherfucker. You got to be willing to step on someone's neck to win. It's just innate. It's in my,
Did you struggle with that concept, or was it
No,
easy for you to
it just came naturally. I mean, it was something that I think you can work on, but I do believe there are certain aspects to it that have to be sort of internal and have to be sort of come natural. The ability to compete.
You do some coaching with some younger men. Is there any, what do you encourage them to do to build the mental resilience and move past adversity and blocks? Do you have any tips or tricks you can talk to the men today about?
Adjustments, like the ability to make adjustments, and the ability to admit when you don't know what the hell you're doing. Some guys are just lost. Like when I teach and coach, and I was like, man, that's okay. I could work with that. Like, we have to slowly build a routine, an ability for you to achieve and become better. And really, when you get to that level, everyone's the same. The speed of the game is the same. Guys throw 95. It's the mental battle. I think the most important battle in your life will be the battle between your ears when you do anything you do, and in business as well.
When you say the battle between your ears, we hear these stories about this inner bitch that wants you to give up, resign, put down the game, and then you've got this more of a push, like a masculine sort of don't be a bitch, go and do it sort of thing. How do you tune out that weak part and subscribe to the strength? Because a lot of men struggle with that too, right? I often get asked hey, Rich, you ever thought about ending it for yourself? Because I have tough times too, right? And it's we all do.
Sure. But it's great. Gino Ariema, who's the coach of University of Connecticut basketball, said the difference between good players and great players don't get tired. Jimmy Johnson said, fatigue makes cowards of us all. I just did this show last year, a Special Forces show in Jordan with a bunch of Special Forces guys, 2 Brits, they were dicks, a Navy SEAL, and the expressions that came, it's cruel to be kind, right?
It's cruel to be kind. Can you explain that?
In the military world, when you give false adoration, because again, it goes back to we're all seeking affirmation, we're seeking compliments. He says, if someone is not adequate or someone is not prepared, it's cruel to tell them the wrong thing. Tell them they suck. Tell them they have a long way to go. Tell them that they're not even close to achieving what they're achieving.
And that's difficult in today's softer world where, they shut down things like broke shaming, fat shaming, slut shaming. Shaming's been taken away. We want to bubble wrap everybody, and we don't want to tell them the truth, right?
What's crazy? I mean, you have people now that are actually concerned. Someone very close to me there was a baby bird or something in their backyard, and she was afraid it was going to get eaten, and I'm like, fucking nature is tough, man. The animal kingdom, right? If you're not the swiftest, if you're not the fastest, if you are not the most gifted hunter, you die.
You don't eat.
Right? And in the human race, we gather everyone around and say, oh, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. No, especially on the men's side, you have to have that nature is rough mentality. I love watching those shows, you watch the lion.
Yeah.
Well, when the lion is going after a bunch of gazelles or wilder, does he go after the strongest, fastest guy in the front? No, he goes after the weak link, the baby,
target,
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
the baby,
come on.
The old injured.
Yeah, something that he doesn't want to. He's just going to pick an hors d'oeuvre off the side.
Yeah.
And that's how the herd gets thin. And yes, I think today it's you're doing people a disservice when you're like you said, the comfortable lie thing.
Yeah, comforting lies.
It's insane to me. And so you're not doing it. You're actually hurting them more.
Yeah, I agree. I saw this funny T-shirt once. It said something like vegetarian, like as a noun, and then it said ancient tribal term for man that couldn't hunt. A little bit of comedy for you.
I love that.
Yeah. What other stories of adversity do you have? Because I mean, you've got so many. And, one of the things I wanted to ask you as well too was, what recommendations do you have for men in this room that may not have had the benefit of coaches and mental coaches and catching coaches and like the support system that you generally get in a professional league like that? Where should men seek out leaders and people to be inspired by? If you have some.
Well, the fact that they're here is good.
Yeah.
Right here around you, like-minded guys who are motivated, who are focused, but also like to have a good time.
Yeah.
Life is fun too. Have fun, enjoy your success. It was funny. What was it just recently? Taylor Swift, when she's going to go see her boyfriend, everyone's like, oh, she's burning all this fuel. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She wants to fly to go Kansas City. These people, it's incredible to me how many people in life sit around and they love to criticize. Like they sit on social media and they're just like these keyboard commandos and we have to learn to just like ignore it in a way. Mm-hmm. I always say to me, like for example on Twitter, unless you have 10,000 followers, you shouldn't be allowed to talk to you, talk to me, like somebody with 2 followers, some douchebag here, saying something negative. It's like, okay, if it's you and me and we're having an exchange, and I love exchanges like that because I can have a conversation online, and if you're just watching a conversation between you and me on Twitter, just sit back and enjoy it. You don't have to chime in and you don't have to be critical, but I think getting back to what you were saying, it was funny to embrace criticism. And not be sensitive to. Don't take it personal. Mm-hmm. I had writers in New York, and when I played in New York, there was no social media, there was no Twitter, there's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there's nothing like that. It was just talk radio station and the scribes, okay? And I had reporters write stories about me. Piazza needs to step up. Piazza can't do this. Piazza can't do that. He's overpriced. Not worth the money, all these things. I go right into them and I say, hey, Joel, how you doing? What's going on? What's up, man? It's like, what, am I going to fight the guy? Mm-hmm. It's like you said, coaches coach, players play, writers write. The people in the ether that are trying to recondition us to eat fucking bugs and all this shit, a friend of mine from Europe, being in Europe, because that's a whole other thing we can get into it. He's like, it's about food security. I go, fuck you, I'm not eating bugs. You eat fucking bugs. Let me explain something to you. Chickens eat bugs. We eat chickens. Cows eat grass. We eat cows. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how it works, all right? And if you want to eat bugs, I don't give a shit. Go eat bugs. But this whole thing about food security, go to a restaurant tonight. How much food do we throw away? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a food problem. We're producing food.
Yeah, I think that humans are, I mean, if you can raise your standards, I often say raising your standards is the best way to improve your results, because we've got these, results, that we can all see. And I can always tell what somebody's belief system looks like, because that comes from inside. It's going to govern your choices, which gets you the results that you can then show the world. So if you reverse engineer that, you can sort of look inside somebody's soul and be like, okay, so this is what they believe. Guys really struggle a lot of the times with staying strong, mentally resilient. You said you heard criticism, like the loudest boos always come from the cheap seats up there, right? You'll hear negativity. A lot of times it comes from family too, right? Like people close within you. Oh, why are you trying to start up a business? Why don't you just go get a job, sort of thing. It's got a good pension, get a government job or something like that. Like playing not to lose versus playing to win. You're a play to win guy. Yeah. Right? The stuff that you did. Playing to win is going to take a toll, right? It's hard, but the payoff is even higher. How do you stay focused on the prize with the distractions, whether it's the naysayers, women, whatever it happens to be?
I think sort of visualization, like for me, one of the things that inspired me would be watching like a really great heavyweight fight.
Boxer.
Boxing.
Yeah.
You know, watching the craft of boxing.
Yeah.
And realizing, because I think sports, boxing, baseball, it's all metaphor for life, right? It's transferable. The ability to wear down your opponent, water to the stone type of thing. Being, I think this society today, at least my opinion, because of all of this, of social media and instant gratification and likes and all these things, it's like our attention spans are become so short now. And I think those who want to be in it, you have to stretch out your expectations. You have to realize that, like, for example, I mean, recently just had, you know, a conversation with the owner of the Mets, and they had a tough year last year. And I said, man, Steve, I go, you have to build a culture, okay? You watch the greatest teams in history, right? You build a culture. It comes, and the fish stinks from the head down.
Right.
Okay? So if you don't have good leadership, if you don't have people that you put under you and allow them to do their jobs, you're not going to be successful, at least in that realm. And look, you know, the bishop that married me, I'll never forget it. He said, it's easier to love someone than to trust them. And it's amazing. He said a lot of things. And this is a guy who was a priest for 47 years. And I said to him, I go, Bishop Iggy, I go, can people change? And he goes, no, it doesn't. Now, can it happen? Of course. But in life, we're playing the percentages, right? We're not playing the anomaly. We're not playing, you know what I mean? Like if you were going to bet on a horse, right? You would do your research and make an educated bet. And that's what we're doing. And one of the things he said, which is interesting too, which is transferred to businesses, like he goes, do not lose yourself in the marriage. Like, do not cease to become who you are in a marriage. Marriage, in my opinion, and getting back to that, is a covenant, a partnership. Like, and my personal feeling is it has to be child-centric, you know? You talk about all these things about marriage and all the laws that are stacked against men, it's true. Okay, it sucks. And I'm sure a few guys that have been divorced have gone through it yourself. Does that mean, you know, you're not going to do it? No. I mean, if you are, you have to try to increase your percentages. And like I said, not getting married till later. And, you know, the worst reasons to get married. You're lonely. You want companionship. You're afraid to lose her to someone else. You know, it's like, you know, I've been going on 20 years, and the second date with my wife, I said, look, here's the deal. You know, you're a good looking girl. I'm a successful guy. I'm ready for a family. That's it.
She was down with that?
She was down with it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, look, that I can date and have fun till my 50s and 60s, but transferring that into the next generation. I don't know how many of you guys have kids, but raising children that are going to be forces in their worlds, to be focused, guys and girls. I mean, you know, girls are difficult too. I have 2 daughters. The way I'm teaching them is an interesting paradox with the men. You know, my oldest daughter, I said, listen, you're beautiful, you're kind, you're going to a great school, you come from a good family, you got some money. Don't give away the gold. I said, you got all the gold. You deserve a high quality guy.
What's the gold? What's the definition of that?
A high quality guy who's focused, who's an entrepreneur, who's maybe comes from a good family. You know, it's, of course there's exceptions again, but someone that you're going to build a life with, someone that's going to be, you know, care about you, care about the kids. And I always say this, the tips that you give to women, I gave her those tips.
Which ones?
About keep yourself in condition, learn how to cook tasty meals, support his purpose. Grooming, what were those?
Purity too, not sharing your body.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
guys,
I said that.
Yeah.
The girl that you care about is not the girl who's been with everybody.
How old is she?
She's going to be 17 February 3rd.
How do you lead like teenagers, kids today, you know, in a world where social media bombards them from every angle with completely different narratives, government, Hollywood, culture, sitcoms, music, it's all counter, you know, to what we grew up in and what our parents and grandparents sort of like infused in their own DNA and livelihood. And I think that phones and social media apps are training kids to be something else that we wouldn't be proud of.
Yeah.
How do you lead teens like that? Like, how do you find that?
I think the tribe mentality, basically bringing them in and putting the time in.
Did it start when they were young? Like you,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
laid the blueprint, the foundation.
Yeah, they get a phone at 12. They get, and it's just, Daddy, I want this. Daddy, I want that phone. This girl, my friend has the phone, and but also creating boundaries. I mean, I think boundaries are very important in life.
Yeah. How do you enforce boundaries with kids that are pushing those boundaries?
You
like,
have to,
children
look,
like to throw rocks on the ice to test us.
Well, first and foremost, discipline is love, right?
Yeah.
If you don't care about a kid, you say, go play in the street. But if my kids would complain all the time. And I give my wife a lot of credit because she would always say, like, lights out, boom. There's no, I went over to a friend's house one time, and we were having a little mix, we were having some drinks, and the kids are up, like young kids are up at like 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, what the fuck are you, the kid's gonna go to bed? Oh, well, they wanted to be with us, and do you ever experience that?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, yeah.
It's crazy to me. Yeah. It's like, get your ass to bed, man. Get out of here.
Did you ever get questioned by the wife as far as these boundaries and the way that you want to raise the kids? Or were you guys always fully aligned with that?
I would say we were always pretty much aligned with that. Yeah. And her, to me, a little bit more extreme than me sometimes.
Okay.
Which was interesting. You got to put the time in. You got to mold them. You got to take things away. And all these expressions make sense too. You learn, you telling them no. There's a lot of love in a no. Right? Mm-hmm. Hey, Dad, Sunday night, want to go out with some friends, have some pizza, see me. I go, don't you have a test tomorrow? Yeah, no. Mm. Right? Okay. And they, discipline is love. It's the same thing coaching, right? People want to be led. I believe that. And leadership really is the ability to make a decision under pressure.
Yeah, you got to make a decision, right? If you want to be led or if you want to be a leader. I say that human beings are a species that love a ruler for some reason.
They want to fight for
Sultan's
a king,
something, right? An army, whatever. So I think it's infused in our DNA to want to follow. So you have to decide. If you're going to lead, then fucking lead. Set the example, set boundaries, and enforce them.
It's a great point.
We got a couple minutes left to sort of wrap up.
Sure.
Do you want to impart some important wisdom that you think these guys need to hear that they haven't heard yet?
I just think the most important thing for me is the ability to pivot, the ability to be receptive to change. People talk about change. Change is good. I heard a great expression that says, find your comfort zone and stay as far away from it as possible.
Okay.
Pope Benedict XVI said, and these are all amazing, read. Okay, guys, read. Find the masters, find the philosophers, find the popes, whatever the case may be, and read their books because there's such pragmatic advice in there. Mm-hmm. These are brilliant minds.
Do you have any books that have been game changers for you?
Yeah, I read the Pope Benedict, the 16th trilogies, Joseph Ratzinger, and he said, life can give you comfort, but you weren't built for comfort. You were built for greatness.
That's great.
And that's it, man. I just believe that never stop searching, never stop trying to get better, never be complacent. There's times where you can pause, have a beer, have a drink, have a cigar, enjoy but there's always more meat out there. Yeah. If you're a shark, right?
Yeah.
And everything. Like I was saying in the whole marriage thing, man, it's like if you had a tough marriage, first thing you do is, what did I do wrong? Okay? Whatever the case may be, before you get into what you do, what did I do? What am I responsible for? And then being able to self-evaluate and be self-critical, I think, is also very important as well. And that's how you grow. That's what we're trying to do. Never stop growing.
Mike Piazza, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. That was fun.